So I've identified the 5 beliefs that I think are really core to the sort of systemic orientations that keep us in codependent relationships. The first one is people are scarce and people are trash, right? So this idea of like, there's no one out there, dating is hard, I'm so special, it's hard to connect with people. People are scarce and people are trash. Number 2, really goes along with this one, that creates that tunnel vision on that one person, which is they're the only one for me. I'll never meet anyone like them again. They're just so uniquely special, right? Nothing could ever be like that again. No one will ever be like them. And this gets into prioritizing the person over the treatment, right? We experience certain things that we want to experience with them, but then we link it permanently to them and thus block out the option or the possibility that it could come to us in other forms, right? So you can see how those two work together. People are scarce and people are trash, and they're the only one for me. The third one is that there's more that I can do. I can save the relationship. I can change myself. I can try this new thing. That's why I am very, very committed to the fact that this course is not about tips and tricks. It is not about communication techniques. It is not about things that you can do that might make the other person conform to the way that you want them to be. No, absolutely not. Because those sorts of approaches feed in to this underlying belief system that actually perpetuates codependency. I think especially for people who are really about personal growth and development can get very, very susceptible to this idea that there's something more that I can do. Because you feel like you're growing, you feel like you're changing. There's this sort of progress that is maybe illusory, maybe real, that you're like trying new things and achieving things, right? And maybe that's possible, maybe that's happening, but what I've noticed is that a lot of times it's one person kind of in this semi-hypnotic state that if they only did this, it would shift the other person. And this is where you kind of get into like a childlike sort of thinking. Like they say children who grow up in really volatile homes tend to choose responsibility over chaos. Which means like you have an alcoholic parent, you have no idea if they're going to be like super loving when they come home or they're going to be in a horrible rage. It's easier for the child to assume responsibility, to assume cause and effect, to think the way that the parent is acting is actually caused by something that the child is doing, as opposed to accepting the sheer terror that their parent's state, their primary caregiver's state, is not within their control. It is pure chaos. It's much harder to accept that you are not in control. It's the same thing with any addiction. It's like step 1 is you have to admit that you're powerless, right? It's not like you alone can save the relationship. It's not like if you only did it this way or only did it that way that you'd finally get met in all the ways that you want to. I think that's actually a really toxic, unspoken mythos that permeates our society that needs to be addressed and confronted and eradicated, because the best immune support that you have against codependency is actually knowing yourself, knowing your dreams, knowing what you want. Because one of the primary characteristics of codependency is that your sensitivity has been hollowed out from within and placed outside of you. That your ability to sense yourself and your feeling state, probably because of some really fucked up shit you went through, has been turned outwards. So that you're very good at reading other people. You're very good at sensing subtle shifts in the emotional psychic field. But you don't know what the fuck you're feeling, right? You can psychoanalyze the person 7 ways to Sunday, but you don't know why you're there. Or you haven't even like fully cognized that you have a choice to be there. You don't know what you want in a relationship. I'm saying you, I'm obviously talking to myself at some other point in time. I'm obviously like maybe saying this for whoever has to hear it, right? But this course is about that process, is about that journey home to figure out what you feel, what you want, what the impact is on you, and turn all those beautiful antenna sensors back inside. Because I think that that is the best medicine for codependency and the most surefire path to successful, fulfilling relationships. You know, one of my spit tests for whether someone is in a codependent frame of mind in their relationship is you ask them how it's going, and do they start talking about themselves and how they feel, or do they start talking about the other person? Right? I swear, 9 times out of 10, especially with people who have been through trauma, who have been socialized female, who are in relationships that aren't satisfying them in whatever way, their first instinct is to look at the other person, to understand and analyze them, and then try and change themselves in order to indirectly get their needs met. That is the formula of codependency, one of them, and that is a recipe for self-rejection and self-abandonment. And if you are abandoning yourself, hard fucking truth is most likely you're going to experience yourself as being abandoned by the other person. Yeah? You get hyper-focused on someone else. They're the only one for me. They're the only one for me. You start making compromises. You start completely saying that you'll be able to put up with anything in a relationship. Then you're probably going to end up putting up with fucking anything in a relationship. And you get that person, but you don't get anything of the experience that you want to have in a relationship, and you lose a real sense of yourself. So that's what it is. There's more that I can do. Yes, there's more that you can do that involves going inside and getting to know your own truth.